So Act 3, Scene 1 is an interesting scene because the scenes that involve Macbeth following the murder of Duncan can be seen as each representing a new low in his descent into darkness and evil. Here, shortly after murdering his king, he is already plotting to murder his close friend Banquo. It's Banquo's turn to use soliloquy in this scene, and he does so to suggest that he is not altogether comfortable with how Macbeth has come to the throne. Just like Ross in the previous scene, there are a few characters who do not entirely believe that Macbeth didn't kill Duncan, but are choosing not to speak out, either to see what they might get under the new king, or through fear. Now Banquo epitomises this uncertainty. In his soliloquy, he appears to be suggesting that he's not best pleased with how Macbeth has won the throne. He says, "I fear thou playest most foully for it," but he thinks it may lead to something for him. May they not be my oracles as well? Now Banquo has played the loyal subject with Duncan and with Macbeth, and the events in the rest of this scene could be interpreted as Macbeth fearing a man loyal to a dead king, or alternatively a man loyal to no king, who will do anything to further his own means. One of the most pleasing things about this play is the richness of language. Shakespeare enhances his words with double meanings, puns and irony, creating an environment for the audience where they're on edge. Everything said could mean something other than the intended meaning, and it adds to the tension in the play, creates deep uncertainty. In this scene, for example, Macbeth's opening words are, "He is our chief guest." Now, considering the fact that Duncan was the chief guest recently, this can be seen in a number of different ways. In fact, it turns out Macbeth does indeed plan to kill Banquo, and as such we can see that to be Macbeth's chief guest is not actually a good thing. It means you're the next in front of the firing line. Throughout the play, Macbeth's speech changes in order to reflect his state of mind. We see him reacting to different situations by adjusting his speech. The Macbeth we have here in this scene is also quite a different man to previous scenes. As detailed earlier, we've seen Macbeth the soldier, Macbeth the warrior, Macbeth the private man, Macbeth the morose, and now, most chilling of all, we have the cunning, devious and evil Macbeth. Now, language is a marker of both status and state of mind. At this point in the play, there doesn't appear to be much difference between Macbeth and his wife. He's so calculating about the way he places his questions that Banquo doesn't suspect a thing. "Ride you this afternoon? Is it far you ride? Goes Fleance with you?" These questions betray to the audience the plan in place, but not to Banquo, an excellent example of dramatic irony where the audience understands what's happening, but a character on stage does not. Some of the final words spoken between the pair are interesting in their multiple interpretations. Macbeth says to Banquo, "Fail not our feast." Macbeth has plotted to have Banquo murdered, and he knows already he will fail to make the feast, because he's going to be killed before it happens. Macbeth is slipping into evil here, into the type of language used by his wife and the witches. But Banquo's response is interesting too. He says, "My lord, I will not," which can be interpreted as a basic response to a request from the king, but also the irony is that he actually does make the feast, albeit in the form of a ghost of Macbeth's imagination. Another snapshot of Macbeth becoming more like his wife is shown to the audience when he's speaking with the murderers. Gone is Macbeth's noble and considered speech. Now he's cajoling and cunning, just as his wife was when she urged him to kill Duncan. He appeals to the men's self-esteem and also to their manhood in order to persuade them to kill Banquo, saying, "If you have a station in the file, not in the worst rank of manhood, say it." So he's saying, if you're real men, you would do it, which is obviously the exact same line of argument that Lady Macbeth used earlier on with Macbeth to persuade him to kill Duncan. It's interesting to wonder whether this was the true Macbeth all along, or if this is some sort of mania brought on by the murder of his king. It appears he's taking over Lady Macbeth's role and revelling in it. Is this a case of the mask slipping to reveal the true man, or is it just one of many masks and Macbeth is simply getting carried away? By reversing the roles over the course of the play, is Shakespeare giving us a comment about how evil deeds corrupt the person who does them? That's for you to decide.